That podcast ain't right, I tell you what. Today on the OSMcast. Blah! Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OSMcast. I'm Dylan.
I'm John, I tell you what.
I'm Jess. Dang old Jess.
And that's us. So we all watched the new King of the Hill season. I think all of us came to it with some sort of hope because we all really enjoyed the original. I figured there was a lot I wanted to talk about. I think a lot you guys wanted to talk about as well. So here we are. Start out with, you can find more about the OSMcast at OSMcast.com, OSMcast.com. If you enjoy what we do, we've got a Patreon. We've also got a Discord where you can come and talk about King of the Hill or video games or tabletop games or other cartoons or anime with us, whatever you want.
It's a very active server, so if you're worried that you're going to go there and nobody's going to post anything, you don't have to worry about that.
You get to learn about what I'm making to eat quite regularly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got Food Type where people post what they're cooking. I would say it's a medium active server. There's some that I cannot keep up with, but I can keep up with us. And that's a selling point.
Yeah. Well, we're not a huge server, but
Right.
it is very active for like the number of people that are on that server.
Yes. Not too much, not too little, just right. We're the Discord server you can actually pay attention to. So we're going to start out, since we've got 3 people on this episode, and we're going to do Moments of Awesome.
It's a moment of awesome.
I'm going to start out with a game that I am late to the party on called Bohnanza. It's one I'd always heard in like lists of classic games. I was like, this sounds like it's a set collection card game. How amazing could it be? I've had some people break it out at the board game nights at my local game store, and it's great. Like, it's totally changed the way I feel about trading games. So, if you play Settlers of Catan, like, it ends up rewarding people for taking very hard lines on trading. The thing with Bohnanza is there are 2 main factors. One is you have to play cards in your hand in the order you got them, and you can only be working on 2 sets at the same time. And there's mechanics that like force you to reset those. So it really incentivizes you to just like, here, I will give you this card.
I'm glad you like Bohnanza. It's made by my very favorite board game creator in the history of time.
How do you pronounce his name?
I have no idea, but Yue is how I would say it. Yue
Okay.
Rosenberg.
I'm trying to think. He also designed Agricola, right?
Yes, that is my very favorite board game of all time, actually.
I was trying to place, but yeah, it's like I wouldn't have thought anything about it, but then you sit down and play it and you're like, oh, wow, this is really different. This is really encouraging me to play a trading game in a way I wouldn't before.
It's interesting you mentioned Bohnanza because, not to sidetrack us too much, but I was at San Diego Comic-Con and I was at a random party with a French guy, like actually from France, French guy. And I was talking about coming back to Georgia to play board games with my friends. And he's like, what kind of board games? And I was like, well, actually Eurocentric board games. And he's like, oh, okay, I'm very familiar with those. And I was like, yeah, I really love Agricola. And he's like, I love UA games too. I specifically love Bohnanza. And just, closing gaps, bridging barriers. I mean, board games do it all. From somebody on the other side of the globe, and he and I are sitting there relating about UA games. So
yeah, and it's one that really appeals to people who play different levels of complexity. I feel like when it's been broken out at the local game store, we get a pretty good group going. John?
Mine is so John core that I had to go back in the Moments of Awesome from like the last couple of years just to make sure I hadn't brought it up. It's from Timberwolf Studios on YouTube. The Owen Wolf is a 0. It's called The Edit of Evangelion, and it is a fantastic breakdown of the show. it does it from like more of a visual composition point of view. So you kind of get into a lot of the directorial choices that are made, and it's just really interesting. It's a different way of breaking down the show, although it does get into a lot of, you know, the same sort of discussions, but it's done really well. And there's about 2 years worth of catching up to do if you haven't watched it before, but they're just about to get to the last couple of episodes of the TV series, and I think they're going to do into Veva after that.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Jess?
So I have recently been trying to stave off the cold, icy grip of death as best that I can, and I have decided that to do that I am going to increase my fiber intake constantly. I'm Fibermaxxing, as the kids say. I don't know if any kids actually say that, but I'm going to say as the kids say. And so because of that, I'm a big foodie. I care a lot about, and my love language is making meals for people. So I've spent a lot of time investigating the most efficient uses of how I can get fiber into my diet. For example, this week I made huevos rancheros the other day, but instead of using standard like corn tortillas, I used the Carbmax fiber tortillas that are like very low. They're keto friendly because they only have like 2 net carbs, but the reason they only have 2 net carbs is because all their carbs is in fiber. It's like it's 36% of my daily fiber was one of these wraps. It was crazy good. Chia seeds like per ounce have some of the highest fiber content of anything that you can eat. I started eating some chia seed stuff, but I don't like it when you have to soak them and stuff because it makes them gooey, and I don't need that in my life. Like I don't need this congealed substance sliding down my throat. I just don't need it.
But I'm fine with it in like limited amounts, but I've tried throwing them on like yogurt, and that is definitely better.
Yeah, I do them even unsoaked a lot. Like I put the crunchy before you soak them on top of like fried rice, and it tastes fantastic because it's just like a little crunch element, and it's got like a butt ton of fiber in it. And my movements have never been more solid. Like I really absolutely recommend Fibermaxxing. They say that if you just increase your fiber intake by like 10 grams a day, which is not even that much, you can get little supplements that do it with like just a gummy bear or something. It will add 5 years to your life. I mean, like the studies are very clear. Like fiber is really, really good for you. The more fiber you eat, the better it is going to be for your gut biome. And it certainly has made a difference for me. As I get older, I have more of an issue with heartburn a lot.
Yeah.
And eating a lot of high fiber stuff really helps my heartburn quite a bit. It reduces it. But yeah.
I didn't know that, but I guess I can see that making sense. And also, fiber's just not going to be as spicy or whatever as other things. So
I think heartburn's really person to person, but for me, for whatever reason, the fiber really helped it. Fiber and not drinking sodas as much, which hurts my soul because I am a soda girly and I don't like this whole not drinking sodas crap, but this is where we are. And I'm going to live forever. So I got to make sure I live forever. And just like in Death Becomes Her, the real lesson of Death Becomes Her is if you're going to live forever, you need to take care of your body. Because if you don't take care of your body, you ain't got another one. You don't have a backup until we are in cyborg future, in which case, sign me up. Okay, sign me up for cyborg future. You put my ghost in that shell. I am here for it. I am ready. But until we get there, I'm going to take as good a care of my body as I possibly can within reason because I still like red meat and you can pry that from my cold dead hands. But, you know, Fibermaxxing is my new thing right now. I will be trying to get as much fiber as possible at all times.
Max that fucking fiber.
Yes. Oh, how many grams of fiber are you getting per day now? Is that what's the
recommended? Let's see, daily fiber. I'm not sure what is recommended is 25 to 38 grams for adults. Most people, especially in the United States, do not get anywhere close to enough fiber.
But are you like tracking how much you're actually getting? If
I were smart, I would be doing that. If I were smart, I'm not doing that. I should be doing that. I'm absolutely not.
I've tried food tracking and it's tough. It's tough to stick with. But yeah, no, I get it. I thought you would I figured you were going to give some like huge number. Honestly,
well, I will say that probably on average in any given day, I am increasing my fiber by about 20 grams over what I was doing because I'm taking 2 different types of I take like green gummy supplements, which also have a lot of fiber. I've tried to incorporate dinosaur beans. So one of the fiber things I'm doing is dinosaur beans. There's a lady who said I couldn't get enough greens. Like she was doing it with greens, and she called it like dinosaur meal, where she would take like a bundle of spinach and just shove it in her mouth like an animal. And it was the only way that she could like trick her brain into actually eating the greens, because she didn't want to take the time to make a meal and make side dishes and stuff. And I get that. So I do dinosaur beans in a very similar manner. I keep cans of beans in my pantry because they're shelf stable and it's lovely. And then I open one and I pour it out in a microwave safe container, and then I heat it up, and it's got a lid on it. So I heat it up. I put a little bit of salt on it. I eat like 4 spoonfuls of beans. I put the lid on it and I put it in the fridge for tomorrow. And I just go through beans that way. That's one of the chia seeds, the supplements. I mean, like I'm getting a lot of extra fiber, but dinosaur beans is definitely on the list of things that I do.
So we started Moments of Awesome with beans. We ended Moments of Awesome with beans. Circle of life, as all things should be. Let's start talking about King of the Hill Season 14. And I think where I want to start here is, what did everyone expect from this?
I expected for Shit with Dale to be a lot wilder than what it was.
Yes.
I expected to have a lot more, I guess, not problems, because I understand why they made a lot of the cast changes and why some of the cast changes were necessary. I expected to have more problems with the recasted voices in my ear than I did.
There's only one that I have like a real problem with, and it's not the voice, it's the cadence.
Which one is it?
For Ted Wasana song. You have to have the cadence.
Yeah. Ted Wasana song, when he was being like, I completely get why they have recast him, and I respect and support that. But you're right. Toby Huss did a very specific comedic impression when he was doing it in the original run of the show, and you didn't really get that with the newer episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing you mentioned about Dale, though, gets into why I was not sure, because like we've all been talking about, where would these people land post-Trump, post-COVID? What would these people be like in our new insane reality? I kind of worried about that, because there's 2 ways that could go. One is that the new season was going to just upstage the character drama with cultural commentary. And the other direction is, there were some episodes of the original seasons that aged very well. And then there were a few I can remember that didn't age so great. Like, I can't think of anything that was truly, truly just egregious. But some of these episodes would come to a resolution that looked like a thing your Fox News relatives would say. Right? And I'm like, this could get weird. And I gotta say, I really like what they did. So all my worries were assuaged.
I was happy with that too. I feel like it's relatable. So there's like a meme image that goes around, and it says, when somebody gives you a conspiracy theory, you've got to kind of out crazy them. And I feel like that's kind of what they did with Dale to make it a little less controversial. And the meme image of the example is like, I don't believe in the moon landing. And then the other guy goes, you believe in a moon?
Right.
Like, they made Dale on a level of crazy that is beyond politics in a way that I think was a good tactic to go with. Like, Dale's running for mayor, but he's not necessarily running for mayor under like a Trump supported ticket, as an example, or something like that. He did it in like a different crazy way that Dale, that Dale did the mayor thing.
He did, but I think Dale was actually one where they walked a very tight line, where they referenced all the right things, that if you're a sicko about how these things work, you're going to recognize the mayoral discussion, and you're going to recognize a lot of the things he said in the George W. Bush Presidential Library rants.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's very clearly referencing weird COVID denialist anti-vax stuff, very clearly referencing election fraud conspiracy theories and the whole Trump thing. But they never say those, well, they kind of say those words in terms of like COVID, but they don't get too deep into it. So they communicate it very well, but they don't let it overshadow everything else.
The one thing I will point out is in the soccer episode where, Hank gets kidnapped by Dale and Bill, and so to get out of it, he just plays along and tells Dale he's a double agent.
Yeah.
And at some point in that whole discussion, Dale says something about, him being a globalist pawn or something like that.
Yeah.
Him using the term globalist, which, if you're not familiar, boys and girls, it's just a placeholder for Jews. It's a little disturbing.
It's again, they know the language. He mentions, like, the Presidential Library episode, they mentioned, like, Lyndon LaRouche and all this stuff, and you're like, they're pretty clearly defining where Dale fell.
Yeah.
Without saying it explicitly, and kind of, like, still letting him do the cool, weird character stuff. Like, we get an extermination episode. We get a couple episodes where he's spying on people and thinking they're double agents, or, he does the stupid stuff.
He has upgraded his technology a bit. His spyware's getting better. It's getting a little bit better.
He's got a drone now.
I love, I actually particularly like the episode where he and Joseph are both spying together. And it's like,
yes.
The proverbial apple does not fall far from the tree there when Joseph, like, spins into a trash bag.
Yeah. It's a pretty sweet move, I'm not gonna lie.
You could almost hear him saying, shh, like when he does it. On the opposite side of that, I appreciate that they didn't touch too much on hotbed, like, I would say, politically charged language, but they still managed to do stuff in ethical ways. So, like, when Hank encounters Girl Scouts and they tell him that the name of the cookie has changed. So, fun fact, it actually, I don't think, changed for that reason. You just have cookies that are named different things in different parts of the country. But they decided to write it like, oh, well, Samoan people didn't like that their name was on it. And he's like, and he made a positive comment about it, but it wasn't something that would have been out of character for Hank Hill. Like, he's still, like, a traditional conservative, and he's still not going to be super progressive in his language or anything like that, but they did it in a way that was respectful, and I think that was very indicative of the character.
Yeah, like, they walk that line. Hank, he mentions twice that he didn't vote for Obama, and one of those times it's like, because he was born in Hawaii, that should be a reason enough.
You don't have to make up stuff.
Yeah, it's like they're kind of walking the line of, like, just getting as weird as we expect them to get. And they're focusing back on the character drama, because really, I think the character drama is where this season shines.
Yeah, they reset some of the things that they changed in terms of the character drama. Like, I think it's season 4 where Nancy stops cheating on Dale, and she stops cheating on him for the rest of the series. But they reset that in the intro, like in the new intro, you see, Nancy getting into a Jeep with John Redcorn, and it's like, oh, they picked that back up. And it's interesting because I think the one thing that they did that I wasn't anticipating was that they took Hank out of the equation for the time skip.
Oh, yeah.
They literally removed him from the country.
Do we want to talk about the time skip? Because for a while it's like, oh yeah, it's 8 years. Because I remember we were watching, and Jen pointed this out, and we were like, oh yeah, I'm sure all the math works out. It doesn't make sense. She was like, no, it doesn't.
No, the math doesn't work out at all. Yeah.
No, GH can't be a teenager if this is just 8 years. What are we doing?
Yeah, there's some time dilation shit. This is Gunbuster timeline right here.
Well, more than that, if you look at real life stuff too, like there was real life analogs in the original series. I mean, like he went to an event and shook George W. Bush's hand and he had a limp wrist. So like some things were tied to the time period such that it's been so long since the original one that both the real life time analog doesn't make sense. And you're right, some of the characters' ages also do not make any sense.
MySpace was an episode.
The thing that really stood out to me after I did this, after I walked through and like, no, the math can't work. It's like, oh yeah, they're not writing it for someone as insane as me who's going to go check and see if they actually did all this right. They're writing it because it's dramatically interesting. I do want to go back. You mentioned John Redcorn and Nancy showing up. And they are a really good example of how a lot of the season ends up cranking things up to 11. The first time you see them show up in that realtor ad, it is a jump scare. Yeah, they just keep doing these jump scare things where like, no, you're not supposed to be that explicit about it, but they are.
Well, see, and that's the part that I think it would have made more narrative sense and it would have flowed better with what they wanted to do with it if Nancy had left Dale. and like Joseph goes to college or gets out of high school, and I guess he's on a crew because he mentions he's like the quote only white guy on his job site. But like Joseph gets out of the house, Nancy's like, "Sorry, Dale. Excuse me. Sorry, Suge. We're done here." And then she was like, had like a second marriage to John Redcorn. That would feel very natural in a narrative to me.
I almost wondered if after Johnny Hardwick died, if they would have just written Dale out and then had her marry John Redcorn. Like that would have made some level of sense to me.
I think that would have made sense too. I think they could have, because they could have done it in a reverent but humorous way, like that Dale like literally exploded himself when he was hiding, like to like do some conspiracy theorist bullshit, and it was unexpected. Kind of like how they blew up Buckley in the early seasons in the Megalomart, where it was funny, but they still treated it like a tragedy. Like I could see something like that being something Dale did something stupid, but then they're all trying to be really nice at the funeral, you know what I mean, or something like that. But yeah, I agree. I just probably they don't want to do that with Johnny Hardwick passing away, like in real life.
But I also think one thing this series or this season does is it rides on a lot of that sort of where are they now nostalgia. So you kind of want to go back to some of those old patterns because you want to kind of bring up those feelings again. But there are also some things where you kind of pass on. Hank seems to have dealt with some of his issues with Cotton much better when you hear him kind of talk about it. We see Bobby. Bobby is not just a loser. He's actually pretty successful when the easy path would be to kind of make him a loser. So they're kind of balancing some advancing the characters with some like callbacks to things we already know.
They even advance Bobby a little bit athletically when they're at the football camp. Like, you know, he misses the first one, but, you know, he starts making catches after that.
You can't be a chef like he's doing and not be a little bit athletic, I feel like.
There's a level of hand-eye coordination there that is required.
Yeah, and just physical activity. So I think it actually gives him some respect. But I think the easy way would be to make him like a struggling comedian. And the restaurant also ties a lot of the other characters together. It sets up a plot that we can then actually have pay off later in the season.
I particularly like the restaurant scenes because I like the whole episode where they're all dealing with the cultural appropriation stuff. And I appreciate that they wrote it in a different way than you expect. And a lot of the cultural issues were with the German people, not the Japanese side of his restaurant, but the German side of his restaurant.
They really would have preferred if he had been ethnically pure.
Yeah, they went some places with that I'm like, wow, okay, you just said that.
It's an axis of flavors.
That's right.
I had that thought of like, no, that's a horrible thing. They're not going to mention it. And like, oh, okay, they are going to mention.
I will say that line and Bobby getting excited about Cotton killing that guy's grandfather as one of the Fitty men felt a little bit weird because you were literally talking to a man about his grandfather dying, and I get that his grandfather was probably a Nazi in this case. So,
I thought that was why Bobby says, "Oh, you went there," because it's like that's exactly what he was saying.
I don't think he was being confrontational. I think he was just like shocked that, oh my god, this is one of those Fitty men that Cotton talked about. Like that's the impression I got, was that he was just kind of surprised but also amused by it. Like, oh. But it felt a little weird because the dude was clearly hostile towards him. And Bobby is the conciliatory type, and he's not confrontational. So
yeah, I also really like he has some really good moments where he just means so well, kind of like Hank. Like he's so straightforward. That...
well, like we're talking about Joseph. I'm the only white guy on my crew, and he just holds his hand up to Emilio. Like, don't worry about it.
And I feel like the relationship between him and Emilio is really good because they clearly respect each other, even though he seems like he is super new to the whole restaurant thing. And that was really cool. Because again, you could just make Bobby the loser. The old series kind of wants to do sometimes.
That's true. And I mean, like, okay, as someone who is a nerdy kid with weird hobbies and normal parents, okay? I can tell you that I relate to Bobby in the earlier seasons quite a bit because it was exactly like had the weird habits and my parents are exactly kind of buttoned up in the way that like the Hills are. And more my mom than my dad. I certainly have that dynamic more with my mother than I would like Bobby does with Hank. But yeah, when he's into mimery, when he's into or the esoteric comedy, when he picks up the wizard hobby and winds up out in the woods because he's in too deep.
Resplendent.
Like, I love that. And I relate to it. But I appreciate that Bobby has his own life. And a lot of people have pointed out, and I think it is a very good analogy, Bobby's relationship with Chain is very similar in a lot of ways to Hank's relationship with Buck Strickland. And that it's not the same. Bobby has more self-respect, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But
there's the
Chain
moment
is the
where Ted is like, "Oh, I can't go talk to these people. I'm a silent partner." And he's like, "It clearly like to yell at me then." Whereas Hank is like, Buck did not teach him everything he knows. Buck is lazy and irresponsible and unfaithful. That cannot be true.
Yeah. Yeah, when the first time they said that Bobby had a robota restaurant, I'm like, oh, Binchaton charcoal. Okay, that's going to be a problem later. Like, the second they said that. And that's because I'm a fat kid who likes to eat, and I know lots of shit about Japanese barbecue and what they use for it.
I did relate to Bobby a lot because he's just like, he has that hook up there at first and he's like, "Oh, so, I'm free next weekend and all this stuff." And it's like, "Oh, okay. No, that's not how things work now." Right. Like, it's like, yeah, I feel like I would be right there with you, Bobby. There's this exchange he has with Emilio where Emilio's like, "You're putting like paragraphs in your text messages with lines between them." And he goes, "Yeah, they let the eyes rest." And I almost jumped up and was like, yes, he's right.
He really did. I can confirm this.
As far as other characters go, I do like what they did with Hank and Peggy's situation. It's much different than the original. It's kind of this nice change of pace, and it lets us see different sides of the characters.
I just can't understand, and they never explained why on earth Hank left Strickland Propane.
I think it's just a hand wavy thing, right? Like, you have to explain the gap.
Well, I think that they're going to come back to that. I think it leaves them opportunity. Like, the most feasible explanation I can think of is that Buck Strickland has a heart attack in the bed of some young girl that he is sleeping with that is not his wife, and then his wife gets control of it and sells off the rest of the Strickland Propane because she doesn't want to deal, or his ex-wife or whatever. She doesn't want to deal with it. Like, I feel like that's an episode coming in season 2 that we're just going to get flashbacks for later.
Because Buck cleaned up.
Ms. Liz, so we don't know if she's alive, dead, divorced, what's going on there.
I hope Miss Liz is doing well. She was voiced by Kathleen Turner, who I think is not with us anymore. Pretty certain. Pretty sure she was Kathleen Turner. If she's not Kathleen Turner, then that woman had a very, very good impression of Kathleen Turner.
I don't actually remember this. But it is very clear that Buck has cleaned up, like, the time we see him. I don't know if that's a spoiler.
Yeah, they held him back for a while. I kind of expected to see him more, but he was kind of held back until the last episode.
Yeah. They also did that with Khan, and I definitely think that is a spoiler because I kept noticing, like, we keep not seeing Khan. What happened to Khan? Is he a guest star that they couldn't afford to have that much of?
I don't know. Maybe they were scared of the new voice change and they weren't going to put him in more episodes. I'll be honest, a lot of Khan's early episodes in the original show were basically the rest of the community being kind of racist to him. And I don't think that kind of humor would fly as much,
No, like, he's just so antagonistic to the main characters that, like, one way or the other, it's going to get bad. I think they held it back because it's the linchpin of some other things that happen, and we may save that for spoilers, I think. I think the two characters that they really turned up to 11 to the point that really worried me were Peggy and Bill. Like, Peggy's always been full of herself, but
she's the worst. She's actively the worst in this season.
She feels like she's hitting toxic parent levels of fragile self-esteem.
You don't want to hear about Peggy's time in Saudi Arabia?
I did love that she kept mispronouncing things. Like she mispronounced that. She mispronounced vegan. Like it was just a running gag. And I feel like they've always done that with like foreign words, but never English.
I will say my favorite Peggy episode in this entire season was the soccer one. The idea that the Kills still like love each other to the point of having like afternoon sex is delightful. Like that was a great treatment of the characters to be like, oh, Bobby's not in the house. We have the freedom to do this. We can do this. Like, I liked it. It was refreshing.
And Hank has it evolved to the point where he left the whistle on during sex.
I did not expect horny Peggy. I'm sorry. I did not expect it. It's fine. Like you said, it makes for a good story. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it. I will say that the Peggy Bill episode is a mixed one for me. Like I will not go in. Not until we're in spoiler time.
Yeah,
it was a mixed one, but I think the setup for it was really good. I think that like parts of it were good because they definitely, even from the first episode, Bill's condition was very amplified. Yeah. And I, as the number one Bill Dauterive fan in the goddamn Southeast United States, I will stick my claim to that because I love that man. I love that man so goddamn much. I didn't hate all of it, but I would like some better Bill stuff in a potential season 2.
Bill got super dark. Like he has that initial shut-in gag. It course corrects back to his original form. I'm so glad I can identify with Bobby because I don't want to identify with Bill. I don't want to be his number one fan.
I love him. My very favorite Bill episode, which is my very favorite King of the Hill episode of all time, is A Beer Can Named Desire, where they go back to Bill's home in New Orleans, or his family's home in New Orleans, and he gets the opportunity to sleep with 2 women that are not related to him, and one is his blood cousin. And as Peggy says, that is your ticket to hell.
No, he goes 2 for 2 though. He manages to navigate and get laid by both his non-blood relatives.
He does. It would have been 3 if he let Guillaume in the evening.
Oh, hey now.
Every episode that starts as a Bill episode is gonna get like where things are going good for him. It's gonna get so dark and so terrible by the end.
Oh, remember when he was Santa?
Yes.
Oh God. Oh, Bill.
They reference that episode at one point where Connie and...
remember when we got drunk in a bounce castle?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, that was... This season had so many Easter eggs that it was just... I really appreciated it.
It wasn't even a big Easter egg, but my favorite one is that they reference the fact that Peggy is better at buying cars. Because there was a whole episode about how Hank had been getting taken advantage of by the dealer, and they reference how Peggy is the one that knows how to buy a car better.
But it's little things like that they're not too... It's not too heavy-handed. It's just kind of sprinkled liberally throughout.
Yeah, I will say in contrast to that is I am very much, I'll be honest, a Simpsons apologist for later seasons. I've seen all of it pretty much that's out, and I've seen it multiple times, and I think people don't give a lot of credit to some of the later seasons that they do have some pretty choice episodes, but The Simpsons went through a phase, I'd say probably 3 or 4 years ago, where they had a series of, hey, you remember this? Hey, you remember this? Hey, you remember this? And it was just like a lot of those kind of things and a lot of that season, and I'm just like, this does not suffer from that. You don't get a lot of that vibe from this revival.
No, they're so subtle that you see them. When you see them, it's great. When you miss them, you didn't even know they were there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to point out there's one Easter egg in the episode where Peggy has the book nook and they're all talking shit on social media, where Con makes a reference while they're burning books. It says, those aren't logs, which is a reference to the Millennium episode.
He also calls them hillbillies, and you just know it's Con, so it's like, wait a minute.
Did you see where Bill burned his wedding album finally in that scene?
Yes, that was.
I didn't put that together.
I didn't catch it the first time. I caught it on the second watch through, though.
Yeah.
I guess some good things have to happen to Bill because, they straight up make him suicidal. Like, I laughed so hard at the old gun flavored joke, and it's so bad. It's so dark.
Tasted like I thought it would.
Yeah, it's. Did you know if you finish Netflix, you get something called a wellness check? Like, it's just so dark.
Yeah, by removing Hank from the equation, like, Bill's the one who suffers the most.
Yes, which I guess we assumed. We should have assumed. Do we have any other characters or early episodes that we haven't gotten to?
We haven't gotten to maybe my favorite new character, which is Luke Jr., but we can talk about him more when we get into
I didn't even think much about him, honestly, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say on that.
He has my favorite gag in the season, but...
Okay, yeah, I know what you're gonna say then.
Yeah.
They added Keith David as Brian Robertson, who's this guy who rents the house from the Hills while they're in Saudi Arabia, and then like moves in and hangs out in the alley with them. And I think, Jess, you were saying like you didn't feel like they used him as much as they could have.
I don't think so at all. I am a humongous Keith David fan. He has a fantastic voice. He is an excellent actor. He does a real good, like, cheery but saying real fucked up things kind of vibe to him. Like, he can make it sound like it's like a party every day, but he's saying like real fucked up shit. And I love that about Keith David, and I just feel like they absolutely this season wasted the talent of Keith David. Now, I would love to see him in more stuff in the future. I absolutely want to see a continuation of it. My favorite new character is Emilio, but I do think that there's a lot on the table next season for Keith David to be able to like get more into this.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Surprising that they didn't make at least one episode kind of centered around him.
They give him some really good moments, and he kind of plays the straight man in some cases to some of the weird stuff that's going. Like, he's sitting there in the background in one of the later episodes. He's got a band, and he's just kind of like doing weird, doing kind of the normal band leader stuff as everything goes to hell around him.
I did like that. That was I did like that. But yeah, I don't think they gave him enough, like, it's on the writers, and I get it. You only got so much you can do in a season, so I understand why. But I want to see more of him. I want to see episodes centric to him. I mean, in the old series, we got a lot of one-off characters that wound up having like episodes about them or episodes that touched them, and I think we could use some of that in the new one.
Yeah, I think one of the things, like, they wrote out Lucky and Luann because, Tom Petty and Brittany Murphy passed well before this happened. And I think that was kind of the way this show or this season approached a lot of those sort of, I don't want to say side characters, but characters that got added in later, is they really, really focused on the main cast. And it would be interesting to see some of those people show back up as more than just like
Arlen is a small town. I mean, it's not a big place, so there's no like everybody we've seen that's not like an actor that has passed. There's opportunity all over the place here. You had a lot of recurring people. Hank's coworkers at Strickland Propane, as an example. Like, where's Debbie and where's the guy that wears the diaper? Where's Enrique? Who's the guy that the big guy that wears the diaper?
That's who you're thinking of.
Joe Jack. He wears the diaper in Bobby's comedy routine, and that's always what I think of when I think of Joe Jack.
Baby did a bad thing, honey. I always think of the episode where Hank had to go to Johnny Depp to get his back fixed doing yoga. And
at the end, that definitely hasn't aged well.
Yeah. And at the end, Hank's teaching everybody how to do yoga, but he's changing all the names. And Joe Jack goes, I just felt my chakra open, honey.
Yeah, I think that absence-wise, I felt Luann's absence probably the most. Her, like, naive innocence set up a lot of the gags in some of the older episodes, and you just don't really have that. If I could trade out about 30% of Bobby finding love storylines for some more, I know we can't have Luann back because that's tricky, but to have like some kind of innocent analog.
I mean, they could recast her, but that I do like that there was one episode where they had a montage set to Tom Petty's Running Down the Dream, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like,
yeah, I do love Lucky. He got that PP money from the Costco.
Yep.
I do see what you mean about, like, she would set up some of the gags. It's weird because, like, a lot of these characters, I don't remember that being there until much later. Just in my memory, that's how it goes. And so I don't notice them as much, honestly. Do we have anything else for the non-spoiler part before we get into spoilers?
I'm ready for spoilers.
Yeah, I think we can spoil the shit out of this now.
I think one last note I had, the new version of the theme song is great. They got...
I do like the new theme song. Yeah, or the new version.
I looked it up. It's by a guy named Billy Strings. So I was just like, that is excellent. All right. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll come back with spoilers. All right, so we are back with spoilers about King of the Hill Season 14, which sounds like a weird thing to have to do for a show like this, but here we are.
I mean, stuff happens, so, we can spoil it. My most annoying Peggy moment in the entire series, strangely, was not from the Bill and Peggy episode. It was Peggy and the beers. Like, god damn it, drop it. Just drop it. This gag is not funny. Please stop hammering it in. Like, it drove me absolutely batty.
I think that's why I felt like she had kind of crossed a line. That was one of the reasons, because it was like, you are really setting this up to be a big deal, a bigger deal than it has any right to be.
Yeah. I also found, I think the weakest episode in the season for me was the chore episode where they were on the bananas, 5 bananas.
Chore champ.
Yeah, because I'm going to be real with you. I mean, I get where they were going with it, but it is not relatable that someone would give a very low rating because they wanted to talk to somebody when they came over to do a household chore. It just didn't seem feasible on like, people do weird shit all the time, and I guess in that level it's feasible, but if somebody comes over and does a service, most people, like, if you got 4 instead of 5, it would have been one thing, but like getting like 1 or 2, like, it didn't make sense to me. I just didn't think that was tightly written.
Also, Hank should have just gotten his own fucking account.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's specifically gig work. He does not have to constantly be out doing it. And I think it didn't really hang together, but I don't know. It did feel weak. I think I have like 2 lines from the notes I made, so...
I liked a lot of the other episodes. As much as I hated Peggy in the beer episode, I really liked the beer episode for a very specific reason, and it showed that Bobby has expertise more than Hank, and I appreciated it hitting us very early in the season with that realization in different verticals,
Yeah, and also having moments where Hank would respect Bobby. We aren't simply doing more of that boy ain't right,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a nice follow-up to the end of the series when they had the meat grating episode, which was fairly late in the original series. And that was definitely a point of pride for Hank, for Bobby, because he's grating chunks of meat, and it certainly would help him in his, like, food career.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that is a good setup for... It's not completely out of nowhere that he's a chef, but it's not as obvious as like, oh, he's trying to get into comedy or something, which was where I expected them to go.
I will say I did find Connie trying to set Bobby up with her roommate to be very awkward, because I don't understand why. I don't feel like people in real life would do that without warning them, like, just to be like, oh, I think I've got a roommate, she's really cute. Most people would say something about that instead of just kind of throwing somebody in that situation.
Yes, especially the way it's set up, like, oh, we're going to do karaoke and then flipping over. But I think this is all to kind of like, everyone expects Bobby to get back with Connie, right? And you can't just have that happen. So you have to have the girl he hooks up with in the first episode. You have to have Willow, who actually does a couple things that you're like, oh, maybe she's going to be the regular girlfriend. You have the whole chain situation. You have Connie doing that to try to kind of diffuse the situation. That also, I feel like, shows Connie's feeling weird about something. They're doing it to set stuff up, but as a single episode, it does not make sense. And it feels kind of weird.
I was going to say, I had a couple of notes on the beer episode. One where Hank is going, first discovers the setup at Megalomart. There's a standee of Snoop with Chuck Mangione. And I think that they would have produced a bop if Chuck Mangione were still with us.
Hard agree.
Yeah.
This also, I mentioned this earlier, that Luke Jr. has my favorite gag in the entire season.
Yes!
The beer episode, it has that moment because he's drinking non-alcoholic beer with, Boomhauer and Bill, and, Bill sitting there chugging him down, crushing him against his head, and Luke Jr., takes a sip and then just knocks himself the fuck out trying to crush a beer can on his head.
That was an excellent scene. I agree. So this is a question for you guys, I guess, in that the weird time jump stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where was Bobby when they were gone? Because Bobby is 21. Bobby would have been a minor when they left. Did Bobby go to Saudi Arabia? Because he hugs them goodbye, and it seems like he's still kind of around in the opening. I could be misinterpreting the opening. Who was watching Bobby?
I didn't assume that they were there. They were gone all 8 years, but I didn't honestly think about it. So it may
it's
just
possible.
be a gap.
It's possible that you're right, that they were only gone for so many years. But it seemed like they were very culture shocked in America. And if they were only, think about 4 years ago from now, like it wasn't all that different.
So Dale mentions the pandemic. So we are clearly in 2021, probably further than that. And if you go back 8 years from, like, the math doesn't math.
Oh, yeah, the math doesn't math on any level. But I'm just thinking of if they were in Saudi Arabia for more than 3 years under any circumstance, somebody legally would have had to take care of Bobby.
Yeah. And he didn't go to college. He explicitly said he didn't go to college. So that's a good point.
So Bobby, I'm watching the opening right now. Bobby definitely gets on the shuttle with Hank and Peggy. Because, you see Joseph, he's sad, Connie's waving by, Bill's crying.
So maybe Bobby went with them at first and then came back sooner. Because Bobby clearly lives in the United States and is more acclimated than they are to the United States.
Yeah, probably, after he turned 18, I guess.
I think that would also make sense because, in the first episode, he runs into Connie. She's like, hey, have you seen Joseph Gribble? It's clear that at some point, all three of them split up. And it is deranged that we are watching an opening to piece together a timeline to this funny show, this good old comedy sitcom.
There is deep lore in everything, okay? I'm just saying. There is deep lore in everything.
That's why we're doing this episode, because I wanted to talk about the deep lore. I think the first note I've got in the spoiler section is the barbershop episode. I don't think these are in chronological order, just how central they are to the plot.
I think I got a lot of opinions about that episode, but I will defend that I think the premise for it, the basic premise for it, was a solid one. Bill meeting a whole different group of people, Bill lying to people about how successful he was. All of that makes perfect sense. The fact that it's a barbershop and he was a barber, I mean, it makes sense why it would all connect,
That raised, talking about the deep lore, that raised another question. Why and how did he get forced into early retirement in the Army as a barber?
Army has earlier retirement anyway, so there have been other episodes where they talked about him going ahead and taking retirement in the old series, because I think once you're past 20 years in the service, you get a bigger pension if you get a higher rank, but once you're past 20 years in the service, you can retire. I'm fairly certain. I am not in the military. I have never been in the military. But from what I understand, people that stay in a lot longer they're getting better rank, basically, so that they can have better pension. Also, Bill could have easily pissed somebody off. I mean, that generally, I mean, it is Bill Dauterive. I think the chances of him getting into a situation he couldn't get out of, especially absent Hank for multiple years.
Yeah,
he's going to spiral.
Highly likely. Yeah,
he's going to spiral.
Might have rejoined that men's choir. I don't know.
The barbershop, I agree with you, Jess. Like, the barbershop episode is a solid premise. Bill crosses a pretty terrifying line, and then Peggy, to feed her ego, plays along with him far too long, and it's just this moment of like, no, what are you doing? This is bad. Don't you understand how bad this is?
Yeah, I do agree with you on that to a degree. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like we're seeing the worst of Bill Dauterive. At least he's not hung up on his ex-wife still. I mean, Lenore.
That is fair. And also, like, that's what this show does, is
make fun of Bill? I mean, yes, but
also, like, we come to some sort of realization, whether it's signs of Nancy cheating on Dale, or whether it's signs of Bill being weirdly in love with Peggy, or being creepy with Hank, the story he wrote about Hank. A realization is had, no one discusses it, and just lets it go. That's just what this show does. So maybe it is fine.
That is true. I know a lot of people had a problem with the Dale and Nancy stuff and the Nancy and John Redcorn stuff. And I get that. I mean, I do. Like I said, I think it would have made more sense to me if there was a way to have like killed off Dale's character. I think it would have been a more natural progression.
But I mean, even in the old seasons, there'll be some sort of breakthrough around that, and then people just like not say anything. They just won't talk about it. Like, we'll pretend this doesn't exist and move on, and that's what they're doing with the barbershop thing.
Yeah.
Also, I think it was never clear in the original series if Bobby knew what the situation was with
actually it
Nancy,
is.
but
I watched a TikTok about this, and I actually can tell you it actually is. In a very early episode where he is playing with Joseph, he starts referring to Dale as Dale Gribble, and he's talking to Joseph like, "Oh, didn't Dale Gribble teach me that?" And Joseph is like, "Yeah, my dad." And it's like this weird, it's an interaction where you know that Bobby knows.
Yeah, you're right. That's like a season 1 thing.
Yeah, and then even in the new season, when Joseph refers to himself as white, like he holds up his hand to Amelia, which is one of my favorite scenes in the new series, like by far. Like, Bobby knows. Bobby's known for a long time. He just doesn't say anything about it, you know?
He does try and set up John Redcorn and Joseph to hang out and ride horses, though.
Yeah, I'm glad we got that moment of like throwing back to that. That was such a weird episode too, because I'm like, Bronco Berry is gonna screw them over. Like, he's gonna screw Bobby over, because that's the way this story goes. How is he gonna do it? By dumping a horse on them? What?
Wasn't he? Isn't he voiced by Stephen Root too?
Just
like Buck is.
It was so good. Because it was kind of Buckish.
It was very much like Buck, but it wasn't the same character, but it was the same kind of like scummy analog sales guy. And and I love Stephen Root. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna love anything Stephen Root and Toby Huss are carrying this show for me. I like a lot of the other voice actors, but the sheer vocal talent between Stephen Root and Toby Huss is doing a lot of carry. Kind of like Hank Azaria and Harry Shearer, are a huge amount of the voices in The Simpsons, and Billy West. Billy West carries Futurama. Like, there would be no Futurama without Billy West, because he does like half of the goddamn characters, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, Stephen Root is, I don't want to say underrated, but like when he shows up in a show, it's like, yes, I'm gonna enjoy this.
Yes.
What else do we want to talk about in terms of spoilers?
I think episode 3, where they go to the museum and Bobby gets, accused of cultural appropriation. Like, there's a bunch of things that, talking about the timeline not fitting, I don't think fits Hank's character.
What do you mean?
It's the thing that everybody's going to come back to, is like Hank and the weak ass handshake that W had.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of shook his faith. It's like, okay, I could see him going to the W museum. I could see him enjoying it, but I can't see him being like, oh my God, is this the pen that he used to sign such and such? And it's like, come on, man, you shook his hand. You know he's got a weak ass handshake. You're right.
I think it would. You are correct, and I think the thing that would have made it more poignant was that if instead of visiting a W museum, he had visited a George Bush Sr. Like, that would have made more sense in the same sort of, because weren't they both from Texas originally? I mean, I think George Book Sr. is from Texas too.
I don't think he is, but I don't know.
I mean, I could be wrong. I know that I know W is, but
I kind of agree. I didn't think about that, but I just feel like Hank's the kind of guy who's like, he respects the process, he respects the office. There's not a lot of deep lore to that sort of thing with him. It's just like, I get to do a historical thing.
There's a lot of good moments in that episode, though, like Dale offering colloidal silver.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Dallas 5G, which is full of carcinogens. It's just packed with.
I appreciated that one of the things that's referenced in it was taking what's the drug that they were convinced cures COVID.
Ivermectin.
Ivermectin. So let me give you a little side story here about ivermectin. Because they were the guy in the episode was like, yeah, I take ivermectin to prevent this. I was on a cruise. I was on a cruise last year with it was a Viking cruise. It was up the Rhine River. It was a lovely cruise. However, it's a pretty small boat and there's not a ton of people. So you find people to hang out with. I found some cool people. I found some people who were like English teachers that were really cool. I found board game friends. Oh, that was great, except for one guy. So we sit down with this guy. And we start talking to him and his wife, and they're from California. And he actually was he was very progressive. He's like, yeah, I ran for local office under the Green Party. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And we're talking to him. And then he starts dropping weird negative things about vaccines. And I'm like, oh no. And then he proceeds to say, hang on a second, I've got to take my ivermectin. He was actively taking ivermectin every day we were on that cruise.
Of course he was, because it's got to be a miracle drug, because everyone says it wasn't. You have to be right. Like
it was amazing.
Fits so well.
We had lunch with those people one time and definitely avoided them the entire rest of the cruise.
I would just spend the next several days screaming internally.
It was absolutely terrible. But yeah, no, I have real life experience with exactly the things that they were talking about in this episode.
It was such like I said, Dale doesn't get too far afield into some of that stuff through the season. But I feel like that episode was just a chance to really riff on it.
Yeah.
The episode where conscious uncoupling, I feel like that is the linchpin to both. Why isn't Con there? The whole Connie Chain Bobby triangle. Like, that's what we're all building up to, obviously.
Cameron was so uncomfortable with the reveal in that episode that he made me skip forward 2 minutes so we didn't have to watch it.
The one where they get on the camera?
Where Bobby gets caught on camera. Because we knew what was going to happen, obviously. But Cameron has trouble with cringe humor sometimes. And so he's like, I cannot watch this. And we had to skip forward just a little bit.
It was really, it's funny how well that was telegraphed. Because I remember early on, it's like, well, we haven't seen Khan yet. But we've seen Min. We've seen Min a couple times. We haven't seen Khan yet. What's going on? And like I said, they probably got, some A-list celebrity that they couldn't afford to bring in the rest of the season or something. And then oh no, this is a plot point. What are we doing? How is this a plot point? Yeah. And it just adds this weird, and then Connie's dating Chain, and Chain is Bobby's boss. And this whole thing is this bundle that is set. Cause I said early on, I remember going he's going to hit a point where he's going to lose the restaurant. They're clearly building up to that. It's kind of cool that they had that piece that holds everything together until they're ready to kind of go into that episode as the climax.
I think it was a good treatment of it. And hey, I just want to shout out to Min for living every inch of her best life. Okay, because sometimes and quite often statistically happens when a longtime married woman gets a divorce from a man, she is then putting on her little podcast show and doing all this stuff and hanging out in the alley with the wine with the ladies. She's doing whatever she wants to do. Go Min. I appreciate that.
The other side of it is putting Connie with Chain, we know is going to be real dark early on, because she's he keeps talking about these pranks and they're just crimes.
Oh, well, not only that, he is exactly indicative of, it's so good. They use such an interesting way to make Chain a lot the character who is weaponizing therapy speech. Like, they've got like a whole thing where he weaponizes therapy speech because he's just a selfish piece of shit. Like, he doesn't believe in any of this shit, but he's learned the right terms for it. And so he's weaponizing therapy speak.
You kind of feel that when Connie has the revelation about E&M to Bobby. And it's like, I remember watching that and going, I feel like someone who actually does this is not going to be happy with how they're presenting it. But in that moment, you instantly know one of two things has happened. One, either she's just become extremely cynical because she's accepted all this from Chain, or Chain is playing her. And I think it's a combo of different things. Like, I think it's a combo of Connie wanting to live a life, but still, give her parents what they want. That's a piece of it. I think Shane is a terrible person and just wants to sleep around with permission. I definitely think that is a thing. I think there's a lot of pieces of it, and they have an agreement because it at the time worked for them, and it's not necessarily like they're not as into, the culture or feel it on a level of like people that are actually, poly and things like that. It's just a convenient way for them both to kind of get what they want for a time being. Yeah. You kind of know where it's going to end up because it all kind of unravels in that one moment. But it's funny when because that's where it's headed. It's kind of, again, one of these great uses of nostalgia. Like, I think we've all reconnected with people from our past, and you're like, oh, you're different in a way I don't know. Like, you've become a very different person, and I don't know what to do with that. And there is kind of that moment in that discussion.
I think if I had to pick a most hated character, it's probably Chain.
Yeah, he is the worst.
He's the pits. I want to slap him in his stupid face. I want to shove him in the water.
Peggy.
He's the what?
He's the male Peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because like when they confront Yoshida about the charcoal, the guy they're going to for the charcoal, it's clear he has no idea what he's talking about when he's talking about his own culture, and Yoshida has to correct him, and it's like, that's how like Peggy keeps getting corrected.
Yeah.
But I really I do like how they kind of give you where all the characters are now. We get to that point, everything sort of unravels, and then like, okay, this is where we're going. Bobby gets approval from Hank a few times. Joseph and Bobby and Connie all kind of reconnect. We see where Dale and Bill and everyone end up. We kind of get what we want, is the way I felt about it. But I am interested to see. I think IMDb says there's going to be a season 15.
I will say I didn't like the character of Willow that much because I think she was written unevenly, and I think that's a problem.
How do you think she was written unevenly?
They led you to not like her at the beginning, and then they threw in a bunch of things, and it didn't feel like the same person. It didn't feel like the ethics level of the same person in different parts of the episodes. She jumped across the table to make out with Bob. Like, that was really fucking awkward and rude. And then she's incredibly nice and considerate to Hank when they're at the camp, and she knows a lot of stuff. It just felt like two different characters, and that they were, and I get that they were trying to be like, oh, well, not everybody is what they seem on the surface, but it was too jarring for me. I don't know. It felt like a different character.
She felt, I think I got that, but I got the opposite of it. Like, she felt like a fake out, right? Bobby meets her. She's obviously this sort of crunchy hippie type. That brings her in tension with Hank. So we get those moments. And then they go to fantasy football camp, and Hank kind of connects with her in a way you're like, okay, she's just going to be Bobby's girlfriend. Like, this is how we're going to go, if they do another season. And then they throw in some twists
on Jerry Jones's desk, as he deserves.
That was pretty funny.
You get this scene where she's heckling Connie about the situation with Chain, and you're like,
dick. Yeah.
You're like, okay, I see what they're doing here. She's the hippie that Hank's not going to like, and then now we see the side of her where actually we do kind of like her, and she becomes a normal character, or a regular character. And then
she's just going after they talk about her dropping a deuce. after that, she's just gone.
Well, yeah, because it's such a weird moment. You're like, what are you doing? Why is this so important?
Yeah, they never really did get into like what happened with her dad and Jerry Jones. I kind of wanted to know what happened. I was looking out for that.
Like I said, I think she's a minor side character that you feel like is going to be a regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see that too. I don't know. It just didn't feel like a great character writing. Like in the old series, when you have Bobby doing weird shit that like Hank doesn't understand, when they meet in the middle, it's something that Bobby was legitimately interested in, and it flows a little bit better. You know, like the meat thing that I talked about earlier. Like that was something Bobby got into completely separate from Hank, but Hank likes it because it's a manly thing. And it feels natural because it is not like Hank pushing it on Bobby. And I just don't think you get that with Willow. It feels like there's two different characters, and we're shoehorning in something that's going to make Hank like her. I don't know. I didn't love the writing on that part.
Yeah, I can see that. Because one of the things I keep thinking about her is there's this scene where it's like she's testing the bombs or whatever on Bobby. And he clearly makes a point like, yeah, this stuff gives me a rash sometimes. And she's like, I can't test it on animals. That would be cruel. And you're like, oh, she's maybe not good. But then she has some other moments where she's just fine. Like she's very complimentary of Peggy's cooking and everything. Yeah, it's kind of inconsistent.
Yeah.
I think those were the main spoiler things I had noted down.
I'm just gonna go over a couple of notes I had and just note the episode they were from and not really go into much more detail than that.
Okay.
That I haven't mentioned already. From episode 4, woman broke her goddamn vibrator.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I understand it's been a couple of months, but goddamn. How down bad are you after having a kid? I don't know. I'm in the dark on this.
Speaking of episode 4, was anybody else surprised that I totally thought that we were setting this up for Boomhauer to be an escort in secret, and that he was actually sleeping with most of the women that were calling him? And I was surprised that was not going to be the gag in the episode, because I thought that's where we were going with Hank taking over his business, and then women would expect to sleep with him because that's Boomhauer's arrangement, because Boomhauer is a womanizer. I mean, like, that is established canon.
Yeah,
I did expect that.
And he just stays with the same woman all season, and helps raise it. Luke Jr. there, although he doesn't understand a fucking word he says. So
right,
I find that amusing.
I think that's the joke in the Church Imp episode is like no one can understand what he's saying, but he has this good rapport with people, and that's weird. It's a weird joke, whereas he's just sleeping with these women is very straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sad about the way they went with it. It's just, I definitely expected it to go a different way.
Yeah.
Couple other things I had. I would pay for Dale's Patreon.
Like, the Substack or whatever?
No. In one episode where he's doing the extermination for Bobby's restaurant, and Bobby's like, what's that? What's that supposed to do? And he's like, that's for the Patreon.
Oh, yeah, because he's doing the videos or something.
Yes. And also, I just had a note that says sexy rat.
The Judas rat and the sexy rat, and just, it's so complicated. I feel like we had to get a good Dale extermination episode. They couldn't not do it, but it's just so weird.
Going back to conscientious uncoupling for a second, that's another timeline snafu, because Hank and Peggy, they have their, 20th anniversary or something. And that's the episode where they go bungee jumping and Peggy's parachute doesn't open. Con makes some comment about they haven't been married as long, but it's quality, not quantity. So they can't actually have been married longer than Hank and Peggy.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised for all the Easter eggs that they forgot things like that, but it also makes for a better episode to have Con heckling the Hills and then like getting that turned on him. That's a Con episode right there.
Yeah.
True.
The other shocker of that episode is that Hank actually corrects Peggy.
Yeah, but then it became a storyline, and then he had to apologize for it. So it's not like we got any character growth with that.
Well, we got some growth from Hank. He's now more willing to lie for Peggy.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, but we got nothing, no comeuppance for Peggy. Peggy's
not at all.
Not great there.
She's still the worst.
Nah, we need another episode like Peggy and the Drag Queens. Peggy and the Drag Queens episode was very good for Peggy's personal growth, because her coming to terms with somebody who's not like her, and her also coming to terms with her giant feet, and, you know, stuff like that. Like, that's, in my opinion, that's a more ethical Peggy episode, because she actually does learn a lesson, you know what I mean, about treating people and stuff like that.
It's kind of what I said about Bill episodes. A lot of Peggy episodes, it seems like if she starts out high, it's going to get bad.
We never really did talk much about the men's camp.
Yeah.
The GH episode.
It's because it's so focused on GH, it doesn't really connect up to anything else.
Yeah.
But again, it really feels like they know the source material from at least what I understand of it.
For the Manosphere stuff,
Yeah.
I did appreciate the comeuppance in that one of, he doesn't even own this company. His mother does. Like,
right.
Let's think of the most embarrassing thing we could possibly do. It's not like specifically a woman. It is your literal mother. You've got nepotism and it flies in the face of your weird manliness shit.
Yeah, I like how Hank just calls down. It's like, I need you to find out about someone.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that they didn't leave it contentious between Hank and GH, because I think that would have been easy to do. Like, leave them the contentious for throughout the season, and they didn't. And I like that.
They show Hank dealing with Cotton's crap much better, because in that one, when GH starts going off on him at the camp, he has that flashback of Cotton throwing a barrage of insults at him, and he kind of rolls with it. Like, he's able to pull out of it. And I don't feel like we see as much of that, or I don't think we see him as comfortable with that in the original season.
Well, I mean, Cotton didn't die until fairly, late in the series. Yeah. So I think just the proximity of Cotton not being around probably helped Hank. And Cotton Hill, however, is probably my favorite character. Now, Bill's probably still my favorite, but Cotton's a close second of characters in King of the Hill that I think are funny as hell, and I would watch every single episode about them.
Because they provoke so much. I mean, I think that's the point of Cotton is. And also that episode, or that scene with GH, that still lets them put Cotton in the new season.
Yeah. I do appreciate that they at least sometimes attempted to make Cotton a little less one-dimensional. My favorite Cotton line is when they're all very early in the series, and they're all meeting Khan, and they don't, like, they're rednecks, and they're like, "Are you Japanese or Chinese?" And Cotton comes up and he's like, "Oh, no, you're Laotian, right?" Like, it's just like, has the wherewithal to school them all of like, no, this guy's Laotian.
Because in theory, he's spent a lot of time over in Asia, so he actually knows something about it.
Yeah, but how much of that is lies? Because there's a whole episode about how Peggy finds out that he lied about like half of his record in the service.
I completely forgot about that one, honestly.
Yeah, he claims to have been in Germany and Japan at the same time.
I had that thought when he was like, "Oh yeah, the German's grandfather was one of the Fitty men." It's like, but wait, I thought that happened in the Pacific. That doesn't make sense. And then
it didn't make sense in the original Cotton storyline either. And Peggy found this out, and they were trying to deny Cotton a burial plot, because you had to like have so much decoration to get in there, and you had to prove it. And then Peggy went to go help him because Peggy wanted to dance on his grave. And then later they do that because that's when Peggy falls out of the plane, and Cotton motivates her to get better by saying, I know you want to dance on my grave. And there's like a whole storyline around that too. But yeah, when he's getting the plot taken away, Peggy's the one who helps him prove it in like the military court that he deserves to be there and stuff.
I had forgotten a lot of that. Like, I vaguely remember the falling out of the plane thing, but the rest of it, I was completely blank on.
Yeah, there are a couple of episodes where she was rehabbing, and then she was back to normal after that.
Very few people fall out of a plane and have the parachute not open and survive. That's a real rare statistic, you know? And she did.
Do you have any other notes?
Just in the last episode of the season, Connie, when she's kind of strung out on painkillers, saying she wants to do weird stuff to Bobby.
I like that too.
And of course, Bobby, the good guy, is like, no, I forget what he says, but he's kind of like, hold off. You are clearly on meds at this point.
Yeah, and I had a note also, just poor Jonathan Joss, like his situation and what happened to him was just so fucked
goddamn
up.
tragic. Yeah, it's terrible. I love the clips of him from Parks and Rec. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, he did some work on Parks and Rec, and his lines are fucking phenomenal.
There were a couple, I think they were on YouTube. There was one episode that had like fake commercials cut into it. And there was one he did for like a casino, right? For I forget the name of the tribe in that show. And it's so bad. It's so terrible. He does the sort of like sleazy con man in that show really, really well. Yeah, it was so weird when that happened. And I remember like the story comes out that, he gets shot in this altercation, and just as details came out of like, this is kind of a hate crime, it just got darker and darker.
Yeah.
I also had a note that said, fuck that kid. I was trying to remember which kid I was talking about, but it's the one in the bounce house.
Oh yeah, that knocks into Connie.
Yeah, that breaks her arm or whatever.
That, like, there's clearly a bone sticking out of her shoulder at that point.
Yeah.
That's a compound fracture. That's
fucked up.
I do feel like, look, if you're going to have an episode where Peggy gets nervous about going into an MRI machine head first, you give her the shoulder injury, give Connie the knee injury. Because if you have a knee injury, they're going to put you in feet first. What are we doing here? I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're a little in the weeds with it, but I agree. I don't know. I feel like a little bit of the Peggy in the MRI machine was a little contrived. Yes. And I'm not super mad about it, but I also don't really like Peggy. But I think that's a common sentiment. Yeah,
there is an Easter egg in there where they talk about Bobby kicking her in the groin.
Yeah.
Yep, there was. I did catch that. I did catch that. That's my purse. I don't know you.
How did you know it was a 12-year-old? Which, once again, we have confirmed that, like, the timeline is what it is, so...
Yeah, I think originally they said it was supposed to be 15 years in the future, but they retconned that, I guess, when they were in the writer's room and they were kind of devising the season, because it's not what they wanted to do with the characters, so... At least initially, they were telling people that it was 15 years.
You don't have folks in college at that point, and you got a bunch of other issues if you do that. Do we have any other spoiler talk, or are we ready to move to Awesomes Out of Awesome?
Well, I did appreciate John Redcorn. I've been giving it to your wife for some time.
Again, one of those jump scares where it's like, why would you even say that? That's too obvious. Like you're giving it away. But Dale is that.
I'll say it's Dale. I mean, I don't think any of us expect Dale to pick up on this.
Dale's gullible.
There was a whole episode about Joseph's parentage and Dale, and how like there was like an entire episode where Dale had all these conspiracy theories around Joseph's parentage, and like an alien came down and impregnated Nancy, and
yeah. I remember that. That feels true to form for like conspiracy theorists like Dale. It's like, no, you are actually more gullible than the average person. You'll buy into a story like that. Guess we'll move on to Awesomes Out of Awesome. I have not thought of a good pun for this. I got one. I got it. German-Asian fusion of Awesomes Out of Awesome.
The axis of flavors.
One kid just knocking himself the fuck out of Awesome.
Yeah.
Given it to your wife many times out of Awesome. Rest in peace, John Redcorn.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like we got everything out that we wanted to talk about on this.
Oh, I did have one other, and I did not talk about it this entire time, and I didn't. It's my number one thing that I was up and down with on the show, and that is I was very skeptical about Dale's voice, because I knew that they recast Johnny Hardwick halfway through the season, and I knew that some of it was Johnny Hardwick and some of it was Toby Huss, and I love Toby Huss. Now, let me extol my love for Toby Huss until the end of time. If anybody does not know, Toby Huss does a lot of voices in it. He did Cotton's voice, which is great. He did the original Con. He is now voicing Dale, and he's voicing a lot of people. I mean, like, he's got like a nice range. If you ever watch the movie Vegas Vacation, which is a movie I watch almost every time before I go to Las Vegas, Toby Huss has a face role in it. He is the guy that sells Mr. Papa Giorgio fake IDs on the Vegas Strip. and he's dressed like Frank Sinatra, and he's doing a Sinatra impression through the whole movie. That is Toby Huss from King of the Hill, if anybody watches that movie. But I was prepared to not like it. Like, I was like, I want to hear Johnny Hardwick. And so in the first couple episodes, I'm like, the only thing about this that I don't like is Dale's voice because it sounded weird. But then come to find out, the ones I was listening to were very likely Johnny Hardwick himself. His voice just changed a bunch in the interim years.
Yeah, it did.
And I actually think, from what I can tell and from what the internet thinks, that the Toby Huss voice I like better in the new series.
I had that
lines that he did.
I had that sense the first time I watched it because I don't know what it was. There was something about Dale's voice at the beginning that sounded a little off. When I went back to rewatch it for the podcast, it didn't stand out to me as much. And I don't know what the difference was.
I will say the earlier episodes bothered me a lot more than the later ones. And the internet theory is that the early episodes had more Johnny Hardwick and the later ones had more Toby Huss, which is why I think that I just like Toby Huss doing the character more now, which is the opposite of what I thought initially, because I really thought that I was going to like the original actor more.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting his voice to have changed that much, but it clearly changed quite a bit.
And I said this when we were talking earlier, separately from the podcast, but I think that this is indicative of a really interesting way to handle actors either dying or not being able to do the roles anymore. King of the Hill is paving that for other shows, and I say that because I think you are less than 2 years away from main Simpsons casts getting recast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think Marge Simpson is going to be recast within the next 2 years in some way, because the current voice actress cannot keep up with the voice. And no dig on anybody for this. I mean, The Simpsons has been on the air for 37 years.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of time.
I think the comparison I make there is Julie Kavner, who does Marge's voice. I remember watching Rhoda on Nick at Night, and she's in that as an adult. This is a sitcom from the 70s, and she's still doing work. Like, yeah, these people have been around for a while.
And more than that, Marge's voice is not her natural voice. Like, you have to put on a voice to do Marge's voice. If Billy West is doing Fry, he's pitching it up a little bit, but that's a lot of his natural voice. Whereas if he's doing like Farnsworth, that's not his natural voice. He's putting on a voice. And Julie's putting on a voice every time she's doing Marge. I
do feel like I had that same feeling with Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Strange New Worlds, where they recast, and I don't want to get into the weeds necessarily here. They recast original series characters, and they didn't spend a lot of time of like, we have to make these people exact copies of the original actors. They can kind of put their own spin on these characters. And I think it works really well. Like, there's no reason we have to do the Star Wars thing and pretend that all of these people are the same person or whatever.
Well, and when you're able to do that, it's great. But you're right. You shouldn't pigeonhole yourself into doing that. Like, in the Star Wars vein, the fact that they got the guy that played Uncle Owen in the prequels to come back for Kenobi, that was a cool surprise. But did we need to do that? No. I mean, we could have gone without that. It was neat to see, but yeah.
And it's going to get really convoluted if you don't allow yourself to recast. I think if they'd written out Dale, there would have been a very obvious hole in the show, and allowing Dale to still be there felt like brought back more of that nostalgia. So I think it worked out. Anything else?
I got nothing else.
I've emptied the clip. We've got nothing left.
All right, let's do plugs. John, where can people find you and anything else you want to plug?
You can find me pretty much everywhere at J5 is live. That's the letter J, the number 5 is live.
Jess?
Much like Dale Gribble, you will not find me anywhere. I've scrubbed any mention of myself. My name is Rusty Shackelford, and if you get too close to me, pocket sand right in your face.
You got that social security number that you bought from a
clearly
dead child or whatever.
I mean, clearly. I don't do it a lot with my personal socials, but you can find me posting on social for brands at MomoCon. So MomoCon, MOMOCON. I am the co-chair of the show. So if you want to see cool stuff, you should come to MomoCon. It's in May in Atlanta.
All right. And you can find me on Blue Sky at DylanWolf.com. Actually, a lot of different places. Links to all my socials and side projects are at links.dylanwolf.com. This has been the OSMcast. Our website is awesomecast.com, OSMcast.com. You can find all of our episodes as well as our social links there. We're on Blue Sky at awesomecast.com, Twitter at awesomecast, YouTube at awesomecast podcast. We also have a Final Fantasy XIV podcast in the same feed called Carbuncle Chronicle. Again, you can find all the details at our website. We've got the Patreon, we've got the Discord, which is where I think most of us are actually most active on the internet. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you later. Let me go back. I'll edit this out. I'm trying to remember how Basil usually does it. Trying to think what we've got up there. Sorry.
Something about Kevin. I never remember what it is.
Yeah.
Like watching a hentai or something. I don't know.
Oh, since we're off, like for cutting stuff, am I allowed to curse in this podcast or no?
Yes.
Fuck no. Fuck yes.
Okay, cool. I've been censoring myself. I will no longer do that.
Yeah, you can go ahead and throw that out the window.
Right. And we'll cut there.
Thank you, Jess.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah.
I get to talk about poop a little bit too. You know, it's
Hell
a good
yeah.
podcast when I get to talk about poop.